It can be said, and to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't take it to heart if you did say this, but there are a few directors out there that when they release something, I will absolutely go out and watch whatever they make. There's about a handful of those guys. If you've seen the channel, if you've been watching my videos over the last couple of years, you will probably be able to name a couple. Today we are talking about Jesse V. Johnson. I absolutely rate this director, I really do. Going back to the likes of Scott Adkins in Accident Man, Scott Adkins in The Debt Collector, Scott Adkins in The Debt Collectors, Scott Adkins in Triple Threat. I love Jesse V. Johnson, and he seems to love working with Scott Adkins. But today we're getting into his new movie, and his new movie is slightly different, a little bit the same, but slightly different, and we're going to get into that in a quick hot minute. But first, let me tell you a couple of things. That's right, my name is Kevin Halden, this is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all of your news, reviews and exclusive interviews. We like to cover everything from the big budget to the low budget to the no budget, with a special keen interest on the lower end of the scale. That is where my heart lives, it's where it lies. I think you all know that by now. This movie kind of falls in a little bit of a different area. Yes, it's low budget, but it's not low budget. But I'll tell you what, they didn't let that hold them back, because you would not be able to tell that this movie was all that low budget. So we're going to get into it. The movie's called Boudica. And again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and ding that notification bell. It all helps with the YouTube algorithm, letting people know where we are, who we are, what we do. So do all of that good stuff. And you don't want to do all that, just tell someone. Just like walk up to someone in the street and say, yo, you watch this guy's videos on YouTube? You probably won't like him, but try it. And then at least I get one view and then they'll never come back. So yeah, let's get into it.
Forward!
Tell me, what does it mean?
Boudica was a queen, a goddess, and some believe she will come again to free us from the Romans.
They believe that a woman warrior will somehow be their salvation.
They must not find their savior.
And as you all know, I like to follow quite a specific routine. It's just an easy way to do this and an easy way to break down what we're talking about. I always fly off on tangents, but that's just that. But what I like to do is I like to talk about the plot of the movie first and foremost, with as few spoilers as humanly possible. Then I'll talk about the cast and the crew of this movie, and we've got a solid British cast here with some really cool names that I know and love. One guy pops up, I've interviewed him a couple of times now, I absolutely rate him as an actor. It was so cool to see him here, so we'll talk about him in a little bit. Then I like to get into what I liked and what I did not like about the movie. This one is slight mixed bag. Not a lot that I didn't like, but it's a mixed bag. And then I like to go into what I like to call the Nerdly Out Loud final rating. That is my rating of this movie, not the rating of Nerdly. But remember, I'm the most important one there. Take my review to the bank. So the plot of this movie is not exactly something we haven't seen before. And by that I mean we've seen the Boudica story told before. I think it was back in like 2002, 2003 when Alex Kingston from ER fame, she played the Boudica character. We then had like the History Channel's made one. Then we've also, I think like just a couple of years back, 2019, we had another one. So like the Boudica story has been done, it's been told, but the way that we get invested in this is through our actors, the way they tell the story, and the vision of this director. And that's what I will say is, his vision is kind of different. It's taking a brutal stance on things, but really it gets away with the gore because it doesn't show too much, and that's a good thing. Boudica is a Celtic warrior, princess, queen style thing. She kind of rules over her people, the Iceni people. She rules over them with her husband. And her husband is subsequently, in the first 10 to 15 minutes, spoilers, he dies. But we kind of need that for the movie to go forward. So he gets killed, leaving no male heir to look after the people. So of course, like, Boudica is going to try and do that because she's a bit of a badass warrior, but she's not quite as badass as she's going to be later on. The Romans come to town, and the Romans are like, right, we're going to take over the place. Nick Moran is a really big asshole in this movie, so he's like, we're going to take over, but first we're going to beat you in front of your people so that they know we are in charge. They do that, they leave her for dead. Ha ha ha, she ain't quite dead yet. She still be living, she's gonna get up, she's gonna come back, and she's gonna bust up the Romans' shit. And that's pretty much the movie from there. Boudica comes back, she starts taking out the Romans in many different situations, she starts to build a bit of an army, a bit of a following, and then off to the races she goes. So there's not really a great deal else I would like to talk about. Yes, there are some twists and turns along the way, there are some really cool deaths, some really cool battles, and that is the movie in a nutshell. I feel like I'm maybe selling it a little bit short, but if you know this story, you know how it gets. So with that, let me talk a little bit about the cast and the crew, because there are some people in here that I really want to let you know are in this movie. You have got to see these people in films more often. That sounded weird, but you have got to see them. So starting off though, this is someone who you have seen in quite a few films as of late. She's really putting on this badass routine. I am loving it. We have Olga Kurylenko playing Boudica, the titular Boudica, and she really is the queen of war. Once Olga Kurylenko comes back as Boudica to start taking out the Romans, you know that she means business. She is one of these actresses that I genuinely like because I always feel like she's committing to her role. I always feel like she's giving everything to it. So even in the scenes where she's taking a bit of a beating and just getting torn down, she's committing to that and letting it happen just for the character. And it always strikes me that, yeah, she could probably kick the shit out of most men. Olga Kurylenko, fantastic. Jessie V. Johnson, I'm so glad you casted her in this movie as Boudica and gave her a moment to shine. As a huge Vikings fan, let's get into some of our Vikings cast, because there's a few in there. Starting first and foremost with Clive Standen, who plays Boudica's husband. Now, of course, he dies quite early on and he played Rollo in Vikings, but it was great to see him here, and I really quite liked the role for him. It was more of a sensitive type of role, although he was a bit of a badass warrior, but we didn't really get to see too much of that. But you could see that this man cared about his people and cared about his missus, and I liked what he was doing here. Very different to Rollo, so that was great. Peter Franzen, however, is pretty much playing his character from Vikings again, where he just basically wants to fight and make sweet love to the women of the village. That is his role. I loved his role. He becomes sort of Boudica's right-hand man as Wolfgar, helps her build her army, but then when it gets to the point where he realises what she's actually doing, yeah, he sort of pulls back and he's like, there's a lot of Romans around here, this might not be the best idea. So I really, really enjoyed Peter Franzen. And then, of course, I could not talk about Lucy Martin. Lucy Martin's in here. She played Ingrid in Vikings. She was also in Matt Hooking's movie Prizefighter, so that was really cool. But I really rate Lucy Martin as an actress. I think she's got this look where, especially in this movie, when they put the face paint on her and they get her all muddy and put her into battle scenes with Olga, like fighting alongside her, shield maiden style. I loved it. So I know I'm kind of mixing my eras and things like that, but I just genuinely thought she looked badass. So Lucy Martin, you absolutely got my vote of confidence. And then of course you've got the lead dickbag of the movie, which is Nick Moran, who always plays a great dickbag. Little bit of a connection there. Nick Moran was also in Avengement, which was a Jessie V. Johnson movie that we love. But yeah, Nick Moran's really great at what he does here. He doesn't have a massive great deal to do. He just kind of has to be a master shitheel and be the foil to Olga Kurylenko. And he does it well because that's the sort of role he does well. I like when he plays good guys, but Nick Moran always strikes me as just better. I don't know if it's the Britishness inside him, and I mean, we're all pretty much evil, so I don't know if it's just a bit of that, but he plays bad guys really, really well. Fellow Brit actor Leo Gregory is here. I am a fan of Leo Gregory. I've always been a fan of Leo Gregory, ever since the days of Green Street, Mark of Cain, and Once Upon a Time in London. I'm a big fan of the kid. I really wish we saw more of him. And in this movie, he kind of does get his teeth into something a bit different, which was nice. So that was good to see. And I want to see Leo Gregory do more. My man, Chris Johnson, turns up in this movie. I love Chris Johnson. You all know I love him. He was in Tom Payton's Black Site. Cross your bingo cards off, because I mentioned Tom Payton. He was also in Paul Knight's 24 Hours in London, which I have the DVD for. That's him there. I've interviewed Chris a couple of times. He's one of those actors that I feel like gets quite disheartened by the sort of independent English scene. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but I kind of feel like he feels like he's been kicked in the nuts a few times, and he probably has. But to be fair, the roles he's playing, he's very, very good in. He is excellent in. And I want to see Chris Johnson succeed. I want to see him keep pushing his name forward, keep pushing his craft, and just keep going. Because in this, you had a scene near the start of the movie and then a few scenes near the end of the movie. You kind of change the complexity of those scenes and you make it a little bit more, I don't know, tense. Like, I didn't really know what to expect from the character, and that means you're doing a fantastic job. Next up, before we move on to what I did and didn't like, I just want to talk about Jesse Johnson for a quick hot second, because yes, he brings his normal style to this movie. Action, because he knows how to do the action. He also brings a really eerie score. Now, I know he didn't do the score, but he's bringing something very different with the score to this movie, and it really adds and heightens to the battle scenes, to the high tension scenes. Like, don't always notice about Jesse V. Johnson movies. So if that's something I'm picking up on, clearly we are elevating the game again. So what I didn't like, this is a little bit of a mixed bag, because I didn't really have anything that I fully disliked. My only thing was I felt like the movie could have been a little bit shorter. I kind of feel like there was moments where you could have trimmed a little bit of fat. And that's not to say that these scenes were bad. It was just like, okay, we've dealt with this, can we just move on a little bit? And then we kind of rehash a couple of scenes, and it's like, right, we could have just spent a bit more time doing some battle-y stuff, or you could have just got me out of here a little bit quicker. This movie could have been a cool 80 to 90 minutes, and it would have been brilliant. Like, there would have been no problems whatsoever. And that's the first time I've had to say that about a Jesse Johnson movie. It's like, he always feels like he's kind of getting in, he gets his story told, he goes at breakneck speed, we get to the end, and then we come out of it feeling like we've seen something, we've enjoyed something, and we can be happy about what it was. This film, I did genuinely really rate the movie. I genuinely did. The story is good. I just feel like parts of the story we were just padding out for time, and that's a negative for me. It is a negative for me. However, in terms of things I did love, I just thought the cast was brilliant. I thought the action scenes were brilliant, like few and far between, not much of them. We got some good stuff. The scenes were quite brutal without being too brutal. But overall, for me, it was just the aesthetic. I'm used to seeing Jesse Johnson movies that are pretty vibrant, you know, quite, you know, dark but vibrant. We were dealing with a lot of greys and a lot of mud and a lot of whoo. And I like that. It's a totally different tone to this director. So I may as well just get into my final rating of this movie, and it's going to be no surprise to anybody. It is a high rating for me. It's a strong rating from me. I'm going to drop a 4.5 on Boudica. I thought the movie was excellent. I thought Olga Kurylenko carried this movie right the way through. We had a couple of absolute scene stealers in there, which was really cool to see. My Vikings alumni, I loved Vikings. I was devastated when it finished, so to see some of those guys in there was just brilliant. And I just feel like Jesse Johnson has once again smashed it out the park. He's absolutely made another movie that he can add to his filmography that he can be super proud of. And you know what? Scott Adkins wasn't in it, so who knew? This movie's a 4.5 for me. I would have really liked to have given it that 5, but to be perfectly honest, as I said earlier, it's just a little bit of the padding felt like it wasn't 100% necessary. That's all I can really say as a negative about this movie. And even that isn't really a negative, it's just I felt like we were killing time. So with that, I am going to go. My name has been Kevin Halden. This has been Nerdly Out Loud, nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all of your news, reviews and exclusive interviews. Don't forget to go to the website, check out everything over there, check out all the other reviews from all the other guys. Don't forget to look at the videos down below. We've got loads of reviews, loads of wrestling stuff lately. There's been a lot of wrestling stuff lately. So you've got all of that down below. Do check out all that. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, ding that notification bell. It all helps get us out there. We're doing pretty well now. Things are really progressing. You know, it'd probably be a lot quicker if I kept a consistent schedule. But anybody who knows me knows that ain't going to happen anytime soon. So yes, Boudica, the Queen of War, do go and check out this movie. I think you'll love it. You'll get, you know, you don't have to think too hard. It just gets in. It's a little bit of action. Some kick-ass, badass women. Who doesn't want to see that? And then it gets done. So yeah, I'm out. But it's 4.5 out of 5 from me and Jesse Johnson. Whatever's next, I'm there for it.